It's witchcraft.
So this is episode 10 we're recording today.
I can't even believe it.
And we're already into the hundreds of people downloads and all over the world, which I love. As someone who loves to travel and wants to do so much more world traveling, how neat is that?
I agree. I think that having those connections, not just be in your hometown or in your general community or even in your state, but in other countries and different continents, just that whole spectrum of humanity, listening to little old you and I.
I know, how fun. Our voices, even if I can't get to Malaysia or the Netherlands or, all those different places, Tokyo. Your friend actually in the UK, there's quite a bit. He must have been telling some friends. So thank you.
And they tell a friend and they tell a friend. And funny, my friend in the UK, his I don't even know what you call it. What do you call it? Pseudonym name. I don't even know. Pseudonym name. Is that even a thing?
His pen name, his online name, his online identity.
His online identity. That's so perfect. Okay. My friend in the UK, his online identity is actually Ghost. Hi, Ghost. I miss you.
Hi, Ghost. Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, Ghost, of course, he loves this podcast.
So shout out to Ghost who lives in Stockton on T. One of these days, I keep telling him I am going to go over there and have tea with that damn queen.
I'm sure she would love it. She's probably got a lot of ghost stories herself. I imagine she lives in quite the haunted castle.
How cool would it to be able to go over there and do a live podcast from the Tower of London?
Yeah, tea with the queen, swapping ghost stories with the queen, of course.
Yeah.
I think she'd be down.
You can't tell me that every single property she owns is not haunted to high hell.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The ghost stories over there. One of these days, just this past week, one of my favorite places researching, it just led me down so many different avenues of things that we could find. We're never going to run out of material. But
why do you think I made a list?
My list is getting so big. When we feel like it, we can hop across the pond and do some fun stuff over there. I think that would be great fun to do.
That would be great fun.
Especially considering how much you really like the queen. And maybe Ghost has some ideas for some ghost stories.
Ghost and his ghost stories. That would be fun.
Can they smoke pot over there? Can we go to Great Britain and smoke up? Is it legal at all?
I don't even know.
You have to get the info. We'll have to get the info on that and find out the deets, the info.
No. But yeah, no, I'll have to find out if you can spark a big old fatty blunt on the streets of England.
Yeah, have him spill the tea on the cannabis details.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have to find out. Oh, and then, yeah, so we've got some really great reviews. I love that. And I can't believe that, to be honest, I mean, the whole idea for this podcast was really just so that I could hang out with you like we used to. I mean,
right?
You're on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. We never get to hang out.
And this is
the best we can do.
The best we can do without being able to physically pass the pipe.
That's right. So, we can't sit around talking about crazy stories, getting high as fuck anymore. And we're on opposite coasts. We have busy schedules. So this is what we can do. And now apparently we have the whole world joining in with us while we toke and tell crazy stories. How fun is that?
That is fun.
Thank you guys all so much.
And, I was actually kind of surprised at how many people had some spooky shit going on in their lives.
There's quite a few. I was quite impressed with the quality of stories.
Welcome to episode 10. First double digit.
Yay, double digits. Welcome to episode 10. And we're both doing some version of spirit fingers over here.
I know, right?
Spirit fingers. Yay, episode 10. Very excited. That's pretty cool. Thank you guys for joining us on the ride so far. We're still having a lot of fun on my really complicated excuse to hang out with Chelle.
I'm Chelle, and I'm representing the East Coast.
And I'm Laylla, and I'm representing all that is spooktacular on the West Coast.
Now, we want to remind our listeners, if you get a chance, if you got a moment, if you could comment, like, share, but we want you to comment. We want to know who's got the scarier stories. Is it me, Chelle, in the East Coast, or is it Laylla over there on the West Coast? Because I really want to make sure I'm still winning this competition. So please let us know.
Hey, who said you were winning? I'm winning this competition. Obviously, I have scarier stuff. So we know I'm winning. But yes, please give us some comments. We love the comments that you've sent in so far. We really appreciate them. We still completely geek out over the fact that people are listening to us, hanging out, and enjoy spending time with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I love the fact that we have listeners that aren't related to us.
People we did not have to bribe with familial obligations. Yeah, that's really, really cool.
I mean, to my son who is listening, my son is a faithful listener. I love you, boy. It's nice to have listeners that I didn't have to specifically call and say your mom is telling you to listen.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really cool to know that people are tuning into more than one episode of their own volition. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to try and keep it going.
Well, yeah.
Much like I'm trying to keep this bowl going.
Now, speaking of bowls, this latest trip to the old store proved to be quite wonderful for me this week.
Oh, did you stumble upon something exceptional, Chelle?
I stumbled upon some new things. And I, as much as I like some good old standbys, I also do appreciate the testing of new things. And, I'm always chatty with the bud tender and I'm like, well, hey, have you tried this? What do you think? And they're always so very helpful, which shout out to bud tenders all across the land. Best customer service on the planet. I swear to God, these people will sit there and talk to you about marijuana for like an hour. It's like they finally love getting paid to talk about weed.
Oh, I would love to meet people like that. I don't know if it's, LA jadedness or what, but I think my experience out here has been hit or miss. Some places that I go to, the bud tenders are fantastic. And some places it's, I guess they're just like any overworked counter person and they just really don't want to deal with any of it. And I get that. I completely understand. But when everyone talks about how great their bud tenders are and how knowledgeable they are, I can only think of a handful of times where I've ever had a bud tender that was more than just your regular customer service type salesperson. Everyone raves about great bud tenders and all I ever see are your 9 to 5 salespeople. And I get it. Everyone's got to make a buck, but where are the really cool bud tenders?
They're, where they really are? They're actually in coastal Massachusetts because every store you go into, and, I go to maybe 4 or 5 different stores frequently, and every employee, every time, all the same at every store. It's like going and talking to your best stoner friend who knows everything about their weed they're about to sell you. It really is like just talking to your stoner buddy who just knows everything about what you want to know about that weed.
Oh, I love that.
Like I walked in there, they're like, what do you want? Do you want to melt into the couch or do you want to function a little bit? And I'm like, well, hey, what's this melt into the couch stuff you got going on? That's called sweets.
Nice.
Never had sweets before. I don't know if you've ever heard of sweets.
Mm-mm.
This is a 29.91 THC content. And,
nice.
I'm not going to lie to you people. To all you listeners out there, I go for the high THC content. No shame in my game. So when I'm looking at the menu at my local store, I am looking at the highest percentages and I go from there. The guy recommended sweets. He did recommend that you use a grinder with it. Not sure why. I have a grinder. So I was like, well, that's what the guy said. And he seemed to know what he was talking about. And he seemed, whatever.
Knowledgeable bud tender.
But I'm not quite sure why. And I think it was because I was a little high when I went there. So I might not have actually heard what he said.
Is it really resiny? I know sometimes if I get nugs that are really dense and resiny, if it's not ground up to a light fluffy, it has trouble burning or staying lit sometimes.
Yeah, it's like that. These little buds are as compacted as possible.
Yeah, so probably by grinding it up, you're able to get a better burn on it in the bowl. So more than likely, they're
My
just nice,
gosh.
dense little resiny nugs.
I feel like in like the last 5 years, I've learned so much more about marijuana that I may or may not have needed to know.
Yes, legalization has been amazing for that. Again, all the science. I love all that we're learning now. This plant is so cool. There's so much to it.
I've come so far from smoking seeds and stems to
Yeah.
knowing what the difference between a sativa and an indica is.
And now even that's changing everything. It changes so quickly. So I'm just glad that we can still smoke it in all its lovely forms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, sweets, good stuff. Highly recommend. One of the greatest memes I've been seeing floating around the internet for the last little while is Snoop Dogg smoking before he goes in to the Super Bowl stadium.
Yes, I love that.
Every time that recirculates around, I just giggle.
My favorite one said Snoop Dogg was just restocking his life force, as should we all. I mean, really. And how better to counteract the stupid fucking slacker stoner bullshit than to show Snoop Dogg. Snoop,
Yeah.
who came from all of those people. Every single one of those people made themselves. Every single one of those people in that halftime show. And a lot of them, I don't know if they all do, but a lot of them smoke pot. Snoop Dogg smoked right before the show, went on, put on a fucking kick-ass performance. Oh my God, I was singing and dancing the whole time. I loved that shit. Did you see it? How about you?
I have to laugh because in the moment, I had said to my sweet love, my darling dear, I said to him, in the moment, I feel like my inner soul is feeling this to the core. I am rocking to Mary J. I am rocking to 50
Mary J. Blige, Queen.
When they pulled the thing up and there's 50 Cent hanging, I'm like,
oh my God.
We're going to the club.
Yes.
I thought personally in that moment, I was like, oh my God, this is like my whole life flashing before my eyes.
Same. Best halftime ever.
Then to go on the internet after the fact.
I blew my mind.
Every single person in our age group felt the same way.
Yeah. So I saw everyone was like, my generation, I love this. Gen X millennials were like, woo, this is amazing. We got this.
I had one big, huge problem with that halftime show. I'm going to have to air it out right now, people.
All right.
When the hell did Eminem get dark hair?
That's serious. Is that his natural hair color?
I don't know because I've never seen it that color.
Is he trying to hide grays? Is he trying to hide gray? He did raise some girls. I as a person who has also raised some girls,
gray.
You get gray.
Yeah.
You do.
Because let's face it, he's also in our age group. And,
That's true.
I like to just, I actually call it glitter hair. So for all you people out there, it's glitter hair. It's not gray hair. Glitter hair.
I do the same thing, Chelle. You and me. We're right there.
Right. But yeah, Eminem with dark hair. I don't even know when that happened. Me
either, but oh my gosh. Yeah, my only problem was it wasn't long enough. I absolutely loved it start to finish. I embarrassed the hell out of my kids. I was dancing. I was singing. It was freaking amazing. I love it.
And you know what? Yeah, people were hating on 50. You can't hate on 50. 50's great,
Why? What was wrong? What the fuck? No.
They were hating on calling him fat. Now,
you want to know? No,
you want to know what he said back?
That's not.
You want to know what he said back? He goes, "You can't fat shame one. You can't fat shame one. Fat shame someone." Wait, let me start that over. I'm high. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
He said, "You can't fat shame someone who isn't ashamed of being fat."
Yes.
You can't fat shame someone who isn't ashamed of being fat.
Preach it, Fitty. Yep. Yes. Fuck yes.
Quote of the week, 50 Cent.
They brought the haters. And every single time got shut down. Fuck that.
Because we're crunking.
I'm not.
There is no hateration going on.
No
here.
hateration. It was so good, Chelle. So good.
It was good. Like, why can't they go on tour? why doesn't Dre has the power. Why doesn't Dre just get all them together and be like, look, bitches, we're going on tour. These people need this.
Snoop, I saw that Death Row Records gold right there.
Actually, I did see that.
So who knows what's going to happen now?
But yeah, no, Dre needs to step up for everybody and all Gen X and just do a tour. Do a tour, my friend.
Just freaking amazing. Just amazing. Everybody on that stage. It blew me away. The talent.
You know what pissed me off? I have to sit there and watch how many minutes of football that I do not enjoy whatsoever, by the way. And you're only giving me 13 minutes of Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem and Mary J. Blige and 50 Cent. 13 minutes. After all that shit football, I get only 13 minutes.
There was the Zendaya commercial.
Well, yeah.
That was cute. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I've talked about my beauteous weed for the week. What is yours?
Oh, I'm smoking an old school favorite, White Widow. Nice and crystally. Yummy, yummy. Good stuff.
I haven't seen that around here on the East Coast in quite a bit.
It used to be pretty common and I stopped seeing it for a while. I think, as more hybrids and as more people are getting into growing and quote unquote breeding, and you see all these different, different cultivars coming out, things like White Widow sometimes kind of get lost in the shuffle. The other one I really want to see that I haven't seen in a while is my brother's favorite. One of my brother's favorites. Well, one of my brothers. I have 4 brothers and one of them, his favorite strain, I think all but one of them smoke actually. And the one might smoke a little, but anyway, so the one brother Bear, his favorite strain is Northern Lights. And I haven't seen that in a while.
Oh, that's an oldie and a goodie.
Really, really good one. And that's not something I can find that often. So yeah, old school White Widow, really enjoying it, enjoying the high till my new homegrown pot starts being ready to smoke again.
Such a horticulturist.
Love it. Love it. You're going to come out and help me trim. So it's all good.
What I like is I like the little pointy scissors that have like the curved end. I don't know why the curved end makes trimming easier. Maybe it's just some psycho thing in my head, but like the one, it has like a little curve up on the end.
I will get you whatever bougie trimming tools you want. Diamond tipped. I don't care. You can have
trim,
the prettiest.
Trim.
Exactly. Exactly. If you want to be my trim bitch, I will get you the best trimming scissors ever. You can just smoke all you want. Scissor hash is all yours. It's the one good thing about trimming, actually. Scissor hash is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And as I'm opening my little keef box here to break out some more of my lovely White Widow, I am reminded to thank all the people who wrote me commiserating with my cannabis loss last week. As you might remember from the last episode, I talked about accidentally spilling an entire box of saved, practically an ounce.
Oh, Laylla, I remember that. My heart still breaks at that. My heart still breaks.
I know. Mine too.
All across the land, sea to sea, all around the world, every single person that smokes marijuana, we know that pain. It's like a brotherhood.
It is. It really is.
There's a net across the world who feels for you right now.
And to those of you who reached out, thank you. In my time of pain, I appreciate it. Your words meant a lot to me. Your stories commiserating, your funny anecdotes. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm doing okay. We're in the recovery phase, I think. I think we're gonna get through this. So thank you.
We appreciate the kind words.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I was surprised that, I guess not really. I mean, like you said, we've all kind of had that experience. So everyone that commiserated, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I want to get into a little bit of this ghost and ghoul part of our show.
Yeah. So we should probably get into I know we've been hanging out, catching up this whole entire time, Chelle. We should probably do some stuff for the people, not just for us. Do you have any scary stories for me this week while I pack this bowl?
I do. And, they're here for the scary stories. They're here for us. They're here for both. Come on.
That's right. Well, I'm here for the weed and the stories. And you promised me something super scary this week.
Okay, so we are going to go up to like northwestern Massachusetts this week to a little old town near Deerfield River Valley.
Well, that sounds pretty. That sounds too pretty to be spooky.
So we talk about this all the time. You and I are both originally from upstate New York, although neither of us are there now.
That's true.
But you know that kind of atmosphere of upstate New York, very woodsy, very tree-y. You know, you could go 10 miles and see nothing but trees, and then the next thing you see is a cow field.
True. Turn right at the next cow.
So where we're talking about this Hoosac Tunnel, actually, and I'll get into it in just a second, but it's a railroad tunnel, and it passes through the Hoosac Range, which is a mountain extension of the Vermont Green Mountains. So we're in northwestern Massachusetts. So if you're thinking in your head geographically, you are kind of at the corner of where Massachusetts meets Vermont on one side and meets eastern New York on the other side. That kind of woodsy, mountainy atmosphere. You get the idea,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this tunnel, like I said, it passes through the Hoosac Range, which is like this little mountain range. 4.7-mile tunnel they decided they needed to have. So like we're not talking what?
No, I was gonna say I'm not a fan of enclosed places. Tunnels are not my favorite place. They kind of bug me, especially if I can't see the other end or see an exit. And I cannot imagine being in a almost 5-mile long tunnel. Just that alone sounds very scary to me.
Well, you know, and that's the thing. You know, this isn't going into the tunnel in New York City where you're in there for like 3/4 of a mile at tops. This is 4.7 miles. That's a long way. And what they needed to do, or what they decided they had to do, was to build this tunnel to continue the rail system. So it is a railway tunnel. Construction started in 1851. So this was kind of like right smack dab in Civil War time. It took 25 years to build. So construction ultimately, construction went from 1851 to 1873.
Holy shit. Did you well, I can imagine then, you know, obviously they didn't have access to what we have access to now, but 5 miles of tunnel took 25 years. 5 years a mile. That's persistence right there.
And it was like something ridiculous, like $21 million to build, which
at that time,
$21 million was a lot of bucks.
Are you shitting me? 21 million 1850s money?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think at that time that was a lot of money.
A shit ton of money. Like I haven't Googled what the comparison is.
Yeah, like I can't even comprehend how much money that is. It's Elon Musk money.
That is Elon Musk money. So when it was complete, it was actually considered the world's second longest tunnel. The longest tunnel in the world was like 8.5 miles through the French Alps. But this was considered the second longest tunnel in the world. And it was the longest tunnel in North America until another tunnel was built in like 1916. But strangely enough, it's still actually an active railroad tunnel.
Really?
So even to this day, that is an active tunnel. And the American Society of Civil Engineers made the tunnel a historic civil engineering landmark in 1975. So this is considered some construction historical site, I guess. Basically, it was so trains could get from Boston to upstate New York was the whole gist of why this needed to be there. So 25 years it takes. In that 25 years, now, how sad is this? In that 25 years, more than 200 men had died. And actually, the Hoosac Tunnel has a nickname. It had become known as what was called the Bloody Pit.
Oh, wow. So 200 people, while they were working on this almost 5-mile stretch of tunnel, in that 25-year span, 200 people died working on it?
Correct.
Wow.
Because these folks, you got to figure
what kind of conditions were they working in?
That's what I was going to say. You got to figure, these guys, like I said, like 1851 to 1873 was the years of construction. So these guys are using black powder, shovels, picks, their hands. We're not talking like any sort of modern dig through a mountain kind of equipment here.
We're talking Wile E. Coyote, stick the dynamite there and hope for the best.
Correct. So as you can imagine, with 25 years in those types of conditions, these folks died in fires, explosions, tunnel collapses, and actually, in one case, by the hand of another.
Oh, so there's some murder on this train tunnel.
Correct. But the majority, obviously, were unfortunate accidents.
Unfortunate accidents or due to shitty working conditions?
Unfortunate accidents due to shitty working conditions.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the railroad history, but what I do know is just steeped in just really shitty practices, the way they treated people.
Doing these tunnels wasn't terribly different than, say, coal mining.
Wow. And as we know from history, that's fraught with terrible practices and health risks and terrible conditions.
Horrific results. Absolutely. This bloody pit, obviously there was some murder in there. There was a cold-blooded murder in 1865 that kind of gave the reputation for it being haunted, and it kind of only got worse from there.
Ooh, what happened?
In 1865, that year, or right around there, nitroglycerin was introduced to America as an explosive.
Oh, yay. New things to blow things up with.
Pretty much. So the construction crew of the Hoosac Tunnel actually became one of the first crews in America to use it.
Well, that's kind of an interesting factoid. No wonder they made it a historic site.
This was like some big construction, undertaking for the time. This was a big deal.
Some big marvel.
Yeah, this was a big deal. So they got the honor of basically being one of the first crews to be able to use nitroglycerin as an explosive. On March 20th, 1865, 3 explosive experts named Ned Brinkman, Billy Nash, and Ringo Kelly decided to use nitro to continue their work on the tunnel. Now, first of all, you're going in with a guy named Ringo.
That's your first mistake, is a dude named Ringo.
Yeah. And
wait a minute. Who said it was okay to hire Ringo?
Exactly.
And did they make everything his fault? Be like, where's Ringo? Ringo did it.
Wait for it. But the other thing I want to point out that I thought was funny. So you got 3 explosive experts in 1865. Explosive experts. How expertise were they in explosives in 1865?
I don't know. They've been doing explosives for a pretty long time, I imagine. I know zip about explosives in the 1800s. So I don't know, but it's feeling a little Three Stooges to me at the moment.
So let's swing it back to Ringo. So
it always comes back to Ringo. Damn it, Ringo.
Freaking Ringo, man. Every time.
It's always Ringo.
They decided to continue their work on the tunnel, the 3 of them. They placed their charge, and then they ran back towards a safety bunker that they knew would shield them from the effects of the blast. Brinkman and Nash never made it back. For some reason, Ringo Kelly set off the charge before the other men made it back to the shelter, and the 2 men were buried alive under tons of rocks.
Ooh, accident or premeditated murder?
Fucking Ringo, man.
Damn it, Ringo.
Then, to add insult to injury, you can't act like you didn't do anything and then vanish. So, of course, soon after the accident, Ringo Kelly.
Oh, what did Ringo come up with this time?
No, he vanished without a trace, leading many to believe that the accident with the nitro may not have been an accident after all.
Or did he blow himself up completely? Was it a total accident and it just went off on its own and he was mist, vaporized?
Actually, he was not seen again until March 30th, 1866,
Oh, well, there goes that theory.
when his body was discovered 2 miles inside of the tunnel. It was
What?
found
No, wait, in the tunnel?
2 miles in the tunnel.
Did he go in there to hide? What the hell?
It was found.
Damn it, Ringo.
His body was found at almost the exact spot where Brinkman and Nash had been killed. So authorities...
What?
Yeah.
Freaking Ringo.
Yeah. Authorities quickly thought that Ringo had been strangled to death.
Revenge? Was it a revenge killing?
They estimated that he had been murdered between midnight and 3:30 a.m. in the morning.
The witching hour. My witching hour will get you every time.
Kill you every time. No shit. No suspects found. Crime went unsolved.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. Freaking Ringo. So he disappeared and then shows up dead on the spot where they died.
Check this out, though. So, the cops say that no killer could be found, but construction workers had their own ideas about who had killed Ringo Kelly.
Oh,
so
they probably knew the beef that was going on.
Well, they probably knew that Ringo killed them intentionally, is what it was. So according to the rumors and the whispers, they believed that Ringo was killed by the vengeful spirits of Brinkman and Nash.
Ooh, and then, plot twist.
Yep, they came to feel that the tunnel was cursed, and many of them refused to enter it ever again. Crew members walked off the job and refused to return because they felt that there was deep shadows and being watched. The dripping water, they had like this thing kind of formed, not like a stalagmite, whichever one grows from the bottom up.
Stalactites are on the ceiling.
The other one.
And stalagmites are on the floor.
Stalagmite.
And I remember that because stalactite, you have to hold tight to the ceiling in order to stay there. That's how I remember. Anyway.
But they believed that Brinkman and Nash cursed the tunnel and that Ringo had gone into the tunnel to do more work and that their vengeful spirits strangled him to death.
So a stalagmite formed in that spot?
A stalagmite formed in that spot.
Where all three of them had died? Where the first two were murdered by freaking Ringo?
And it took a while for them to actually get workers back on the site because so many people had walked off and refused to work there that it slowed the construction down because basically people figured that was best to be avoided.
You can't see me right now, but my jaw has been open. I cannot believe this. So like these two guys get blown up by freaking Ringo. Now, do we know?
A year later.
Was there a motive? Was there ever a motive found for why he might have done it?
Not that I found. No, not that I found.
But so they think that he killed them on purpose and then disappeared, only to reappear dead in the exact spot where they died.
Strangled to death
by an unknown, possibly ghostly assailant.
Correct.
And then a stalagmite formed there?
And then all the construction workers walked off the job because they thought it was cursed.
The place is freaking cursed. It's a cursed tunnel. Wow. No, that's cursed. That's cursed.
So then in 1868, a couple of years later, the construction site was toured by a guy named Paul Travers, who was a mechanical engineer and respected cavalry officer during the Civil War. He was asked to come and examine the tunnel, and apparently the workers complained of constantly hearing a man's voice cry out in agony.
What? Like a guy screaming or moaning?
Correct.
Is it freaking Ringo?
They refused to enter the half-completed tunnel after sundown.
Whoa.
Now, here's the thing. They don't want to enter the tunnel after sundown. What, are you telling me that the sun was shining in the tunnel? The tunnel's dark, whether it's day or night. What does the sun being up have to do with being in the dark tunnel?
That's a very good point.
It's
a very good point. Dark basements, caves, dark tunnels, just the very fact of there not being light makes it way creepier. But I think the whole power of the witching hour is part of this. Dude died. Freaking Ringo got strangled at the witching
After
hour.
he killed 2 people. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but at the witching hour. And so they're probably afraid of that whole time period.
So Travers was convinced that the strange sounds were nothing more than winds sweeping off the mountainside. So,
well, mountains and tunnels and rocks make weird sound noises. I imagine that could make some superstitious tunnel workers even more superstitious, possibly. So it's possible.
That's why they brought Travers in, because not only was he this well-respected Civil War officer, but he was also a mechanical engineer, and he could kind of basically tell them these are normal sounds when you got a hole in the mountain.
He was kind of called in to quell everyone's fears.
Correct.
Hey, superstitious jerks, lazy bastards, get back to work.
Correct.
Everything's fine.
Correct.
Let's just listen to Daddy on the horse over here.
Correct.
He's going to tell you everything's okay. All right.
So he goes down to the site on September 8th, and the former military officer did not soon forget what he had encountered there. He had later wrote a letter to his sister and told her about the weird experience. He says he entered the tunnel at exactly 9 p.m. He traveled about 2 miles into the shaft and then stopped to listen. Now, remember, Ringo was dead 2 miles in.
That's right. That's where all the murders happened.
He says, as I stood there in the cold silence, I heard what truly sounded like a man groaning out in pain. As you know, he has heard this same sound many times during the Civil War. So
he knows what a dude sounds like, and he knows what wind sounds like.
When he turned up the wick of his lamp, there was no other human being in the shaft except for him and his assistant.
Maybe the 2 of them were moaning. Bow, chicka, bow, bow.
Yeah, right. He told his sister that he had never been that frightened, and that it wasn't wind that what they heard. And
wait. So Mr. Sober, soothe everyone, military daddy coming in to tell everyone that everything's fine. Children, come back to work. He's
never
scared.
Been so frightened.
He heard it and believed it and wrote this down in a letter to his sister that he's scared. Military daddy.
The last line of the letter to his sister read, perhaps Nash and Brinkman, I wonder.
No, the murder.
Yeah.
He himself. Whoa.
So then it doesn't end there. So a month after his investigation in October, the worst disaster occurred in the tunnel's history.
Worse than 2 dudes getting killed?
There was a gas explosion.
Oh, wow.
And it blew apart the water pumping station on the surface, and 13 miners were killed, and debris filled the central tunnel where they were working.
Oh, God. Okay. Stop for a second. Stop. I have issues. Sorry, tunnels. Give me a second. Hold on.
I'm gonna eat a peach while you breathe.
All right. Ooh. You're giving me the creeps, the heebie-jeebies. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay.
Take a hit off that pipe.
All right, let me give me a second here. Oh, all right, Chelle. I hate enclosed spaces. I hate them. And one of my biggest fears is getting trapped. Nope. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. Okay.
Because the 500 foot shaft filled with water. After a while, the bodies of some of the crew began to surface and floated up.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them didn't float up until almost a year later. You've got 13 bodies that have been floating and all of that. They're probably still there.
Of course, it was 13 bodies.
Yeah, right. So, a few years later, they get all the water out. They keep on working. Off they go. Now you can see really why it took like 25 years to build.
Well, yeah, they kept killing people and having to clear that out and then quell the fears of the workers.
Right. But they were having problems because some of the miners and some of the villagers, because, obviously there was a village on either end of the entrance of the tunnel. They were telling tales of vague shapes, muffled wails. They even had claimed to hear lost miners carrying picks and shovels through the mist and
Wow.
on the mountaintop, ghost apparitions.
See and hear miners that had died, like as if they were still working, carrying their picks and shovels to, oh wow, ghost workers.
Like they were headed to work. Like it was time to
Dang.
go to work. When these bodies would resurface, they would then try to give them a decent burial. But basically, the vibe was that their spirits were trapped there. And this is kind of, these were part of the things that made this place called the Bloody Pit.
I'm running into more and more theories about different types of stone and water and running water and a place's ability to attract and hold ghosts and spirits. So that's an interesting theory. A listener brought up to me one time, and I can't shake it because I keep running into it. I keep seeing it. So it's something that's kind of intrigued me.
And people got to test fate. They finished the tunnel right around 1872, 1873. So in 1872, these two guys decide to go in and see if anything they have heard around town is real. They kind of are like skeptical.
So these aren't workers. They're just some people in town have heard about the rumors of all the ghosty activities happening up there, and they decide to go check it out for themselves.
Think of it as like the 1872 version of Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay. So the 1872 ghost hunter people decide to go check it out. All right.
These two men they go into the tunnel, the 2 miles, and then they halted to take a rest. There was no light in the shaft.
Bad idea, guys.
Right. So there's no light in the shaft other than their dim lamps. And they described it as being cold and as dark as a tomb. They were standing there talking and started hearing strange and mournful sounds. They described it as like someone in great pain. One of the guys that had gone in there had wrote, the next thing that he saw was a dim light coming along the tunnel in a westerly direction. At first, he believed it was probably a workman with a lantern. Yet as the light grew closer, it took on a strange blue color that appeared to change in shape into the form of a human being with no head.
No way. He saw, wow, like a ghost light and then a ghost with no head, a headless ghost in the tunnel. Damn.
The light moved,
I wonder if it was freaking Ringo.
Yeah, right. The light moved closer to the two men, and it was so close that they could almost touch it. It remained motionless as though watching them. Then it hovered off towards the east end of the tunnel and vanished. And they basically, again, were these two random people that got the shit scared out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. That went there into that 2 mile mark. Now, do you know if they knew about the 2 mile mark? Like, did they stop there on purpose, or did it sound like it was more of an accident?
They went in, they knew that the tunnel was haunted, but they just randomly apparently stopped to rest at that particular spot. But the strangeness just continued long after that. They started letting trains go in. So at that point, there were train conductors that would think they saw people on the tracks that as soon as they got close, they would just vanish into nothingness.
Oh, wow. The phantom people that would show up at that spot.
Right. Folks on the train were seeing like what they'd call ghostly figures. They were just sometimes when they would be getting to that point, the whole train would go cold, like the temperature would drop.
A train-wide cold spot?
Yeah.
Wow. How eerie. How absolutely eerie.
Yeah.
In a tunnel that probably doesn't get, it's a 5 mile practically long tunnel. It's not going to get a lot of wind in it, I don't think. I don't know.
There was also some like weird other stuff.
There's more weirdness?
Yeah.
What did Ringo get up to this time?
The first train goes through in 1875. So figure a train in 1875.
When I picture a train in 1875, I picture those really cool stagecoaches with the amazing personal cars, dudes smoking cigars and chicks in big dresses. And anyway.
Well, this particular train, it was pulling 3 flat cars and 1 box car. And there was a group of 125 people that had come along for the ride. So, because as you can imagine,
standing on the flat cars, that would be fun. Scary.
As you can imagine, not only was it considered the gateway, the Western gateway to the rest of New England, this was like some engineering feat. So people went. a fire tender on the rail, because at that time they did a lot of it, they were coal trains, so they had to shovel
Right,
coal
they had to
keep it
shovel
going,
that
kind of
coal
thing.
in there.
Right.
Big puffs of black smoke.
They had just gone in with a load of wood and coal, and they had been a short distance into the shaft. The guy turned around, and all of a sudden, surrounded by what he felt were the two guys that were originally killed in the explosion.
Now, I remember you said that the military guy that had been sent in to kind of quell all the workers' feelings and worries, he had felt the spirits of those two guys. And now you're saying, or even then, conductors were feeling the spirit of particularly those two, the first two that were like killed on purpose.
Correct.
Wow.
They seem to have never left. And then
wrongful death.
Obviously, some of the moaning, some of the other random apparitions, that has got to just be people, some of those 13 or...
Well, you said over 200 people passed away. 200 people were killed there.
200 people
died.
Total.
200 people total died in that whole tunnel. So, I imagine a percentage of them.
Stories about the quote unquote bloody pit still continue. There was actually in 1984.
Oh, recent.
Yeah.
Ish.
There was a professor / part-time ghost hunter named Allie Allmaker, and she felt she had a close encounter in the tunnel. She wrote that she was accompanied to the tunnel by a railroad official, again in 1984, and while there had an uncomfortable sensation that someone was standing close to her. She also stated that several students from the North Adams State College visited the tunnel one night and left a tape recorder running in the shaft. They left it there.
Fun. I love that. What did they get? Right? What did they get?
They left it there, and when they returned and listened to the tape, they heard what seemed to be muffled human voices on the tape.
Oh, wow.
So the stories of the Bloody Pit still go on today. Locals in the area still claim that strange winds, ghostly apparitions, eerie voices are experienced in and around the tunnel. Visitors who journey to the site really kind of risk becoming one of the residents of the ghosts themselves because... Like I said,
is it dangerous? Is the tunnel itself safe to go in, or is it?
Well, again, it's 4.7 miles, and it is the Boston and Maine Railroad still. Oh,
you said it was still in use, so it must be well maintained.
Yeah, they still run nearly a dozen freight trains through the tunnel each day.
Oh, wow.
Making it, I think when I was looking at it, I think when I read it, it was like 24 feet wide. I mean, we're not talking about a wide tunnel. It's only 24 feet wide. So you figure a train's got to be 20 feet wide.
Are they? So I have no idea how wide a train is.
You're not talking about having a lot of space between the train and the wall.
That's true.
But they do have a museum dedicated to the site called the Western Gateway Heritage State Park. But
that's interesting.
The thing is that they even like at the entrance, the two entrances of the tunnel, they say that spirits of the past are reported to linger in dark shadows pressed lightly on all sides of that entrance.
Mm-hmm.
And Hoosac is a Mohawk Indian name, and the Hoosac Mountain was named after that Mohawk Indian word for forbidden.
Really?
Hoosac actually translates in Mohawk to forbidden.
Well, that should have been their first clue. Why in the world would you build a tunnel through something that's forbidden?
Right. And has now also garnered the nickname the Bloody Pit. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it would be a spooky, cool place to visit. But I would be afraid of the train.
Nope. You can do that one on your own. Thank you. But no, I don't do tunnels if I don't have to.
Yeah, the train thing would be an issue for me because obviously I don't want to get hit by a train, and having like 2 feet between the wall and the train and get sucked under.
No. It's not.
Would I take a train ride through there? Fuck yeah, let's do this. Stop the train at the 2 mile mark. I'm down. Let's do this.
Nope. You can do that one on your own.
Not a place I would visit just because it's an active rail line. But if I could take a train through it, or if they ever stopped the trains and let people walk through it, absolutely, I'm down. I'm down. Laylla, you know I'm down.
It's possible.
I do it.
It's possible. It's 24 feet wide and
I
almost
fear-
5 miles long. If they did not run trains, if they like stopped the trains for a day,
Yeah, that's my
I could
issue.
probably go through that. That's big enough. I might start getting a little hyperventilate. I'm a little hyperventilating at the moment, thinking about being in the middle, not just because of the 2 mile mark ghost, but just because it's a tunnel. But that's big enough. I could probably be okay.
I don't know how tall it is.
Well, I'm very short, so
Yeah, I don't know how tall it is.
it doesn't really matter. I'm super short. I am way shorter than train height, so we're good. We're good.
I think that is definitely a good spooktacular location. Just tread lightly and don't get hit by trains.
I am already super, super, super creeped. That sounds really scary. I mean, freaking Ringo, man. Why?
It all started with Ringo.
It all started with Ringo. It was bad enough with people dying by accident, but then he had to go and do it on purpose. Damn it, Ringo.
John, Paul, George, they were right, man. They were right.
No, let's not get into that. We're going to have Beatles fans all on our shit.
What are you going to talk about now? What are you going to do to scare me? Scare me now.
Well, I'm going to scare you. And actually, I picked a place, Joshua Tree, that I absolutely adore. You know, we moved out here a while ago, and one of the first places we went to visit was Joshua Tree National Park. And I fell in love with the place, which is super weird for me because I am an East Coast woods born and bred, forest loving, lake loving, witchy, wild woman of the trees, right?
Like, is that a desert? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's 2 deserts, actually.
It's a desert? Okay.
Yeah. So putting this witchy, woodsy woman in the desert was a little weird. When I first came out to California, all I could see was that everything was brown. There was dead. It was no trees. Everything seemed weird to me. But when I went out to Joshua Tree and really got to see the desert and see the land and how much life is in it, it just kind of really opened my eyes. Just something about that place is so beautiful and so mystical.
We need to start from the beginning.
So let's start from the beginning.
First of all, if this is a desert, is the Joshua Tree a tree? Are there trees? Like, what kind of tree is in the desert? Like, is this a tree? I'm confused.
All right. Well, I'm going to answer your first question. Yes, it's a desert. It's 2 deserts. They're often called the high desert and the low desert. The high desert is the Mojave Desert, and the low desert is the Colorado Desert. And so
I think we like the high desert.
we do like the high desert. And the Mojave, the high desert, our favorite, the high desert is mostly where you'll find the Joshua trees. But in Joshua Tree National Park, you'll see both deserts. Now, the Joshua tree itself is not a tree.
Okay.
It's a type of yucca. It's more related to an orchid plant than it's related to actual trees. They look
like a cactus?
Exactly. Similar to a cactus. They're in the family, or, they're a type of yucca, basically. And they can live 500 years on average. And I think the oldest one right now is over 1,000 years old.
No shit.
No shit. And they kind of look Dr. Seussian, they look like Dr. Seuss type trees. And they got their name Joshua Tree from the Mormon people as they were kind of traveling out west. To them, they said that the trees, the Joshua trees, looked like praying hands or arms being raised to heaven. And this was in reference to biblical Joshua. And not knowing the Bible, I tried to look it up, and I was kind of getting confused as to why Joshua from the Bible would represent hands being raised to God. So I called my stepfather. Anytime I have a Bible question, he's my go-to. So he helped me. Apparently, Joshua led the Israelites out of their wandering, and he raised his hands to God. As long as his hands or the staff was raised to God, the people were able to go to the promised land. So the Mormons kind of related their travels across the U.S. To the biblical Israelites wandering to the promised land. So they said that these trees resembled praying hands or Joshua's arms, kind of pointing west and leading them to the promised land as well. So there you go, your little Bible story from Laylla today. Laylla the Witch gives you a Bible story. So thank you, Papa, for that information. I really appreciate it. So yeah, these trees are not trees. They're just kind of really cool Dr. Seuss landscape. And the place is just stunningly gorgeous, Chelle.
Are there scorpions?
Yes.
Damn it.
Yeah. I'm going to hit you with some facts. I got it right from the very own website, national website. 57 mammals, 46 reptiles, 250 species of birds, 75 species of butterflies. The place is just absolutely alive. And if you go out there at the right time, it's covered in flowers and plants, and just the different rock shapes are magical. I cannot wait to take you guys out here and take you. There's serious rock climbers that go out there and serious hikers, but we're going to go on some of the easier hiking trails and some of the easier rock climbing places where you can kind of play around on the rocks and have a good time. You guys are really going to love it.
And stoners. We are not rock climbers, professional rock climbers.
No, not professional rock climbers. Hey, I'm the oldest one of our group and I'll go up there every time. I love it. So you're going to have fun. I'll take you to fun stuff, I promise.
Now, you mentioned the Mormons, and I've heard of other folks from other religious denominations. What about this place makes there be a spiritual attraction?
I think it's the spiritual attraction of any desert, but it's not necessarily that it has an attraction. But, like Jim Morrison loved the desert. He liked to go out into the desert. And actually, the main story I'm going to get into is a singer that reminded me a lot of Jim Morrison.
I love Jim Morrison.
Gram Parsons as a country rock star. And as I didn't actually set out to research Gram Parsons' story with Joshua Tree.
I feel like that name is familiar.
It might be. Gram Parsons was a country rock star in the 70s. He was in a bunch of different bands. He was in the Byrds. He got kicked out of the Byrds. He got kicked out of a couple bands. He was friends with Keith Richards, kind of influenced some of their sound. And he was pretty famous. He was almost in the 27 Club, Chelle.
Oh, wow.
When he died, he was 2 months shy of his 27th birthday, which would have put him in that famous 27 Club. You and I had the same poster honoring the 27 Club. And
I have it. It's right there.
Nice.
I still have that poster. And I actually bought it this past year for my daughter for her 27th birthday.
Oh, and in case you're not familiar with the infamous 27 Club, it's something that's been tossed around. A lot of famous musicians pass away when they're 27. Some of the more famous members of that club include Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse.
And Jim Morrison.
There's a whole bunch of them. And also would have in 2 months. So I guess he kind of is an honorary member, Gram Parsons. So I'm going to talk about him in a minute. Yeah. So when I first moved out here, we went to Joshua Tree and I freaking love that place. It is absolutely amazing. It really kind of opened my eyes to how much life there really is in the desert and how gorgeous it is and how deadly and dangerous that something that beautiful can be. You really have to respect the desert. As I was seeing all these beautiful rock formations and people climbing these crazy rock towers and Joshua trees and fantastic flowers, we were also seeing missing posters for different hikers and people that had gone missing and hadn't been found. Actually, just this month, a man who had been missing for 12 years, his bones were found in Joshua Tree.
Oh, shit.
And back in 2017, 2018, when I came out here, two of the stories that I am going to touch on briefly, but they're current stories.
Is it because of exposure?
Sometimes.
The heat?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Sometimes we never know. A lot of times it's because people are unprepared for the heat and they need to bring a lot of water. And you think you're just going on an out and back trail or something very simple, and it's so easy to get lost. The place looks like Mars. And if you go just a little ways away, all of a sudden you can't see anything and all the landmarks start to look the same. So you have to respect the desert. You have to go prepared. You have to bring water every time you go, even if it's a simple out and back hike. I'm going to just give you a real quick rundown. Joshua Tree was formed as a national park because of Minerva Hamilton Hoyt. I really want to mention her because she's so freaking cool. Southern socialite, married, moved from the South to New York and had a baby boy. And when that baby boy died, suddenly she and her husband moved to California. And she got passionately into gardening and really loved the native Californian plants and the cactuses, Joshua trees, everything. And she was camped. I had no idea that women in the early 1900s camped. Like she talked about going camping under the stars and how much she loved it and what solace the desert.
That's because camping fucking rocks.
Camping fucking rocks.
And they've known for 100 years that camping fucking rocks. I want to go camping.
There's some of her quotes. She would said things like, quote, during nights in the open, lying in a snug sleeping bag, I soon learned the charm of a Joshua forest. Above, the bright desert constellations wheeled majestically toward the west, a timepiece for the wakeful. And she just found such,
Preach it, sister.
right? It healed her being in that desert under those stars, seeing those rocks, the timeless formations touched her and helped her heal. And she wanted to preserve that. And her husband passed away and she kind of threw her whole self into it. She joined commissions out here for proposing state parks. And she had this idea for 1,000,000-acre park.
I was going to say, how big is this? How big are we talking?
Not 1,000,000 acres. That's what she was going for. So she's on all these committees trying to get this park done. And they send someone out under President Roosevelt to look at the park. And he says, nope, this place sucks. It's terrible. It's awful. And he's like, you can maybe have 100,000 acres. Minerva Hamilton Hoyt decided to go completely Karen. Was probably like the original national park Karen, because she was not going to settle for a measly 100,000-acre park.
That was basically a tenth of what she wanted.
Exactly. So she hired a professional artist, professional photographers. She created books with pictures and illustrations. And, she had the governor of the state write an introduction to this book. And she went all out singing the praises of Joshua Tree. And she sent that book along with some high positioned friend of hers. I forget what government official he was. So she had the California governor write the introduction. And then she had some other high positioned California government person deliver this book in person to President Roosevelt in order to get her 1,000,000-acre park. She didn't get 1,000,000 acres. She did get over 800,000 acres. And on August 10th, August 10th, 1936, President Roosevelt signed a proclamation establishing Joshua Tree National Monument. And that was all due to the love that Minerva had for the desert and for the desert plants. And I love her for it. I absolutely love her for this. One of her other quotes that's on a plaque, it's kind of a hard to reach hike you have to get to. It says, "I stood and looked. Everything was peaceful and it rested me." Oh, if that just doesn't encapsulate Joshua Tree. I fucking love this place. And it was founded by a freaking woman, Minerva. What a cool name.
I've looked up some pictures online, and yeah, I could totally dig that. I could totally dig going there.
It's
but I can
stunning.
also see, I can also see how you better watch your ass or you're going to be lost in a hot second.
Yes, respect it. You have to respect it. Beautiful, deadly. Absolutely fucking deadly. And I'm not talking about the scorpions, because odds of you getting bit by a scorpion are pretty slim.
Really? Because I'm scared of that.
Yeah, don't be scared of that. I mean, check your shoes. You got to check your shoes. Wear long pants, wear the right shoes. Be a little cautious. Got to watch out for snakes. Obviously you have to respect the desert in all of its forms, but what's more likely going to kill you is dehydration, getting lost, and dehydration and the sun. And I'm going to get into a couple stories. Again, I went back and forth on including these recent stories because people involved are still alive, and I'm very respectful of that. But these touched me so much, and so many people have gone missing in Joshua Tree for not being careful. And so I kind of wanted to share these people's stories because they did touch me so much, and maybe to help other people understand that you have to be kind of careful. So I'll give you the fun death. I'll give you the interesting haunting first that kind of reminded me of Jim Morrison. While I was researching this place, I came across Gram Parsons, who was a country rock star, like I said, and his absolute favorite place was Joshua Tree. And he would go out there and party so freaking hard. Alcohol, drugs. He would trip. He'd write songs. Again, reminded me so much of Jim Morrison. He would go out to this place that was called the Joshua Tree Inn, and he would go there every time, stay in room 8, and then he would just party like mad out in Joshua Tree. Loved to go out to Cap Rock. He would climb at all the different places. Party animal, right?
Okay, sounds like a fun time.
Right, absolute fun time. So this guy in late 73, he's getting ready to go on tour, and his house burns down. All he's able to save is like his guitar. That's pretty much it. And so he's couch surfing and he's sleeping on his manager, who's also his friend. So his manager, Kaufman, is also his friend, and he's hanging out at his house, sleeping on his couch. And he decides that in the last couple of days before his tour, he's going to go spend them in Joshua Tree and kind of get ready for this upcoming tour. So he goes and he stays at his favorite room, room 8 at the Joshua Tree Inn, which is still there, by the way. And he's partying with his girlfriend, Margaret Fisher, and all of his friends, and they're hanging out. And this hardcore motherfucker decides he's getting completely shit-faced. He does 6 double tequila shots, and he's deciding,
Damn.
right? He decides that's not enough. He finds this chick who's selling morphine. He finds this drug dealer chick who's selling
Jesus.
morphine, and she promptly shoots him up with way more than he can handle.
Oh, geez. Of course.
Yeah. His girlfriend, Margaret Fisher, finds him ODing in the room and decides, hey, let's give him an ice cube suppository. And when that didn't help, she...
Wait. So they decided to try to help him to shove an ice cube up his ass?
Yeah. And I did not look this up because it was a little disturbing. It was already disturbing enough. I didn't want to learn about ice cube suppositories, but yeah, the go-to here, she decided to give him an ice cube suppository and put him in a cold shower. And when that didn't work, she tucked him into bed and decided he needed coffee. Best thing would be to go get him a coffee. So she tucks him all nice into bed. Hey, honey, I'm going to get you coffee to help with your morphine overdose. And she goes and leaves. When she comes back with the magical coffee that's going to cure his OD, she finds his friends trying to resuscitate him, and they call 911, and he was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital, September of 1973.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Rumors are he haunts that room to this day. So his story doesn't end there. In true rock and roll style, his best friend, his manager, Kaufman, apparently rented a hearse because they got to bust Gram Parsons' body out of the LAX airport. Gram, before he had died, had told Kaufman they had made a pact. Gram loved Joshua Tree so much, he said, man, if I ever die, I want to be cremated and I want my ashes sprinkled over Cap Rock, which is one of the rock formations that you can climb. So Kaufman was determined that he was going to carry out his friend's last wishes on what he wanted done with his body. Gram Parsons' family wanted the body flown back to Louisiana to be buried there. So Kaufman rented a hearse, and he and a couple roadies pretended to be, what's the place where you go, your body? What's that house called? Like the
funeral home.
They pretended to be funeral home attendants. Kaufman and some roadies pretended to be funeral home attendants, took this rented hearse, drove to LAX, conned them into putting the body in its coffin in the back of this hearse, and drove the fucker to Joshua Tree. So they drive his body out to Joshua Tree, take it out of the hearse, douse it in gasoline, and light that bitch on fire to give Gram Parsons his cremation just like he wanted. Only they miscalculated how much gasoline they would need. They used so much gasoline that the resulting fireball and smoke could be seen from the nearby town. And so they were only able to kind of partially cremate Gram before the authorities showed up to kind of shut down that last party. They did manage to sprinkle some ashes over Cap Rock. And what was left of his remains were flown back to Louisiana and buried just outside of New Orleans. But so an artist kind of at one time gathered up some dirt and rock from Cap Rock, which presumably may contain some of his ashes. They formed a cement guitar memorial outside of room 8 at the Joshua Tree Inn, where you can go see and see this memorial. It's still there. And that room, the room where Gram Parsons died, is haunted. It has a few mementos in it, some posters and things. It still contains the mirror, the same mirror that Gram would look into in that room. There's a lot of interesting stories about it. You know, your doors opening and closing, things locking and unlocking, furniture moving around. The mirror is said to rattle if you look into it for too long. The room service it's a rule. They have to carry a cell phone at all times if they're going into room 8.
Why?
Because the doors are known to slam shut and lock from the outside. And so they can't get out and they'll have to call someone. There's 2 doors in each room, a front door that you get in and out of, and a back door that goes to a private patio for each room. And one of the room service attendants says that she has seen very often things moving, and they'll often have to ask someone to come into that room with them to help them move like the heavy nightstand and stuff, because it'll often be moved out of where it's supposed to be. And so she had the back door to the patio propped open, and was airing out the room while she cleaned it after a guest had been there. And so when she was done cleaning the room, she shut and latched that back door and then went out front and was talking to another room attendant, when all of a sudden she hears a door slam, and then again, slam, 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 like someone was opening and shutting a door. And she runs into the room to find that back door that she had just latched opening and shutting as if in a strong breeze.
Oh, shit.
There's also people that stay in the room report that the radio will turn on at odd hours, playing country music, no matter what it had been set to when they went to bed. And even in one of the articles that I read, someone stayed in the room next door to it. Room 8 itself was empty at the time. They weren't renting it at that time. And so they stayed in a room next door to it. And they were awakened in the middle of the night by the sounds of loud music coming from room 8, even though no one was staying there.
Oh, wow.
They say that he's still there. And his daughter reportedly still goes to stay there. So, it's just interesting that, it's someplace that he loved.
His daughter still goes there.
Yeah. I guess Kaufman still to this day will go and stay just to kind of hang out with his friend.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of interesting. I had never heard of this guy, but I'm like super interested.
Is this like to the entrance of the national park? Like, or are you just randomly?
There's a lot of different entrances. Oh, it's huge. This place is huge, Chelle. You have no concept. There's several, but yes, this is one of the places you can go and stay at that inn and have easy access to different areas of the park. So depending on where you want to go to the park, you can stay at some of these different places. So that's my fun kind of ghost story haunting. But I do want to tell 2 sad stories that touched me really quickly about this park. And they were people that I had seen posters of that were missing. The first one is these 2 young people, Rachel Nguyen and Joseph Orbeso. In July of 2017, they were reported missing by the Airbnb host where they had been staying. They were friends that had gone and stayed in this Airbnb. They were going to go hike Joshua Tree for Rachel's 20th birthday.
So they were young.
So they were very young. And the Airbnb host reported them missing when they didn't check out and all their stuff was still in the Airbnb. And she said that they may have gone hiking. Authorities found their car parked near a trail called the Maze Loop Trail, which is a moderate, difficult trail hike, kind of an out and back circular trail. And an extensive search happened. I mean, they used dogs, they used helicopters, they used drones, and no trace of them was found. And I remember following it at the time because again, you see these posters when you go there of different missing people because this is a dangerous place. And they were just a few years older than my oldest daughter. And I couldn't get it out of my head. So I kind of was following the case at the time. And I know his father was relentless in searching, and they over 2,100 hours of searching, and they just could not find these kids. They were found a few months later in September of that year by someone who had gone out. They kind of scaled back the search. And so 3 months later, one of the park rangers found them in a steep canyon, like far north of the Maze Loop trailhead. So they had gotten lost and had gone off trail. And it looks like Rachel had fallen and had hurt her head. So they had kind of pieced together the story of these kids based on how they were found. And it's absolutely sad and tragic. So it looks like she had hurt her head, and they found her t-shirt wrapped around her head. And his clothes were kind of draped over her legs as if to kind of protect her from the sun or to keep her warm at night. And they had not brought enough water. They had only brought a little bit of water with them. And it looks like what little food they had brought with them, they had rationed or had been trying to ration. So they pieced together that she had probably hurt her head and possibly her leg in some type of fall down the canyon. And he had tried to take care of her, and they didn't have any water. And just after a couple days, dehydration is going to kill you pretty quickly. He was a security guard, and so he had a handgun with him.
Oh no.
So rather than succumb to the dehydration, they took the humane way out, and he killed her and then killed himself, and they were found in an embrace under a tree. And her family and his family know from what, again, they could piece together. They got off trail, didn't bring enough resources, and she had a head injury. And after a couple of days of no water and knowing no one's going to find them, they chose the humane way out. And I can't get that story out of my head. It's one of those things that kind of sticks with you, that you need to be super careful. Even when you think it's an easy trail, even when you think that you can handle it, you have to be so, so careful. The other one got me because it was a gentleman that reminded me of me and my husband. And so the second relatively recent story was of a Canadian couple.
When we go to Joshua Tree, I am bringing a backpack full of cheese and pepperoni sticks with like some sort of water containers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You need to bring a lot of water. One of the other posters that I saw a lot was a gentleman who went missing right around the same time that we had gone hiking, was a gentleman named Paul Miller. And this was in July of 2018. And we had been hiking in Joshua Tree that same time period. And so again, this was one that kind of struck me. He was a 51-year-old man, and he and his wife were here from Canada on vacation on an anniversary trip, and really fit people. And they were staying at a place in Palm Springs and right near Joshua Tree. And on the day that they were leaving, Paul had wanted to go back to a hike called 29 Palms and take some pictures. And because they were kind of in a time crunch, his wife stayed behind to pack up their hotel room while he went and took the pictures. And he never came back. So she reported him missing later that day. And they did, again, extensive searches, and they couldn't find him. They searched this whole trail. They had dogs. They went everywhere they could to try and figure out what had happened. And he just had disappeared without a trace. And it wasn't until, I think it was either 2019 or 2020, they did a drone search like a year later, and they finally found his body. This one was a little bit different. He had water and food in his pack. He had come prepared. They found him seated against a rock, and they think because he had water and food in his pack that maybe he had died of a heart attack. Maybe he had died suddenly and had sat down to rest, maybe having chest pains or something, so that's a little bit different. He kind of gotten off trail and gotten lost and possibly suffered.
How easy is it to get off trail?
I've been there several times, and we're usually very, very careful. There's a lot of back country, and I guess it's pretty easy. It's easy to stay on trail. Millions of people go there every year and don't get lost, so that the people who do get lost are a small percentage. Because again, I think like 5 million people or more went there last year. Even though you can hike for days out into the backcountry, you can go to some amazing climbing spots. There's horseback accessible places. You can go very, very far where you can't see any civilization. And there's some spots where there's no light pollution, so you can see the stars amazingly. So it's very easy if you're not careful to get lost. But if you take some precautions, it's not that bad. So unfortunately, some people take precautions and have a bit of bad luck. So, you never kind of know. You have to take every precaution you can think of to go out there. So
right.
Beautiful, but deadly place. Whew. I definitely need more pot after a tunnel and a deadly, gorgeous Joshua Tree. I think yours was more scary this week. I'm scared of the murder pit. The bloody pit.
The bloody death pit.
I'm scared of the bloody death pit. Joshua Tree, I'm going to go back to multiple times and will respect it. And every time I go, I can't help but think of the people who have passed away, who have been missing, who have been found. It's beautiful. It's deadly. And, there's a little tinge of sadness there, but it's also a hopeful, peaceful, healing place as well. Pretty cool.
Whereas the Hoosac Tunnel is just like a claustrophobic bloody pit.
Just like a claustrophobic place. I am not going. That sounds super scary. Yep. You win, hands down.
Yay.
East Coast gets it this week. So, all right, cool. Thank you so much for listening to episode 10 of the Stoned Witches Hour.
We super appreciate it.
Thank you so much, all of you, for hanging out with us while we chill and get high and talk about some interesting places.
Now we just need to get a little more high and call it a day.
That sounds fantastic. All right. See you next time when we're going to take it easy. It'll be easy for us.
Next episode, I am really actually excited about. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. It's going to be a good time.
I'm going to get very much into my weed stash. I'm going to smoke as much as I possibly can because I'm going to sit back and read some amazingly submitted scary stories from all you wonderful people. Thank you. Keep them coming. I can't believe I got goosebumps so many times. I got so scared. I can't wait. I'm trying to keep some of them, keep it a little bit of a surprise between us. So some of them I'm trying not to read, so.
But some of the ones I've read are really great, really great. We have some great listener stories.
Oh, you guys are fantastic. I can't believe you put up with some of this stuff.
I'm super psyched.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, we'll see you next time on our listener stories episode. See you then.
Keep it spooky.
Keep it spooky. All right.